Hare Krishna, glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to the Wednesday night reading and discussion of Caitanya-caritāmṛta, which is, of all literatures in our library of books from Srila Prabhupada, as expressed by him, is the most exalted one. And it gives us the deepest insights into the opportunity to become devotees of the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we want to thank everyone for submitting their Vyas Puja offerings to our upcoming release of our book on September 8th. And the deadline for the offerings is the end of the month. So we humbly request all of you to please submit your offering to us as quickly as possible, because there's quite a bit of behind the scenes work that we're doing to advance this project and other projects that are in our very large agenda. This work that we've undertaken is part of a mission to Prabhupada that we've embraced to protect his legacy, his books, and his position within the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, which has been hijacked by our God brothers. And we want to make it clear to you all that this is going on a daily basis, 365 days a year. This isn't for our main members. We're constantly communicating and working on these projects to help human society take up the proper pathway back home, back to Godhead through, and we have so many nice devotees in our group that all are doing that, and this is to our credit and to as a group. And also by contributing your offering to this publication, you're showing the world the commitment of many of us together, working in a harmonious way. This is Krishna consciousness, not this individuality that's common throughout the ISKCON world, where it's sectarian. So we've been reading the diary of Srila Prabhupada, his beginning. And I'm noticing here, I think Venkat, you can show our audience that there's a page there which is reflective of, since the last page where we read about the Constitution, from there onwards up to September 14th, I just gave a sample of a page so you can see what it is. If you just want to show everyone, brother, Prabhu. Like Tuesday, September 6th, Wednesday, September 7th, Thursday, September 8th, Friday, September 9th. It's all a counting ledger. So it appears like this. See that? So we can see that the money flow had increased after Prabhupada opened up his matchless gift store front. And this might be a good idea for any of you in this group, because I had someone say that to me the other day, a friend of mine who's in Los Angeles. He said, oh, you should get a storefront. He said, Bhaktivedanta. He goes, you should get a storefront. I go, really? He goes, yeah, and then you can serve food, and then you could show up and then speak to people and blah, blah, blah. So I thought, really, that's the idea. We have to reach out. And when you reach out, just like we're seeing Prabhupada started to reach out into the community, he started to get a lot of interest. He was generating a lot more interest than just being stuck in that the Bowery Loft with that fellow Paul. So I'm going to read on Wednesday, September 14th. There's an excerpt here from it. I thought I'd read it for us just to see what's here. And so before we begin our class with Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, accounts Dr. Edward Harnack, psychiatrist, supply one set of books, Bhagavatam through Keith. So I would suggest, that sounds like Keith Ham. Dr. Edward Harnack, care of Einstein Psychiatric Institute, 11 West 73rd Street, New York. Dr. Harnack is mentioned below in an excerpt from an interview with Allen Ginsberg for Srila Prabhupada Leela-mrita given around 1979. Allen Ginsberg, Peter Orlovsky and I met Harnack at the group that I knew called the GAP Group for the Advancement of Psychiatry. We had been to their conference. They had invited us to talk about hippies. And they wanted to know what was this generation thing. It was like a breakthrough between the poets and the new culture and the psychiatry groups. So we'd given a big poetry reading and made friends with a lot of them, and then sang Hare Krishna with them, the whole thing. Over the years, Harnack and I developed a pleasant friendship and worked out an arrangement that if I knew anybody particularly gifted among the younger generation that was getting screwed up in the Lower East Side for drugs or bus or madness or whatever, that rather than have them go through the whole horror mill of Bellevue as a medical institution for mentally ill people, and not know what to do, and put them in touch with the Einstein. Sorry, excuse me, everyone. Apologize for that. I'll turn my fan down. So that he could intervene to make sure that they had safe refuge. When Kirtananda case came up at that time, he wasn't the only one in trouble. So I guess what had happened, he had checked himself for treatment, and then they had imprisoned him in a sense. So he was stuck, Keith Ham. When Kirtanandas came up at that time, he wasn't the only one in trouble. There were a lot of hippies going through the same problem, wandering the streets, flipping out. It was a question of finding a psychiatrist who had a little political clout in the New York psychiatric community among the hospitals, whom we could talk to and explain that the situation was that this guy was a devotee practicing traditional Vaishnava practice. And that's why he looked so funny in the American context. But it was all right. He wasn't crazy. He was just trying to do his thing. Harnack was good. He picked up fast and could intervene. So it was quite a shock back then. When people first saw us on the streets, they were quite startled. I can remember going door to door in Montreal, and people, I didn't speak the language. We were trying to sell books, and we had my head shaved. I was wearing those pink robes, and people were absolutely horrified to see us. They thought, where did these guys show up from? We look like someone from another planet that arrived here illegally in this world. So This was the trouble back then. There was a lot of negativity and accusations that we were brainwashed. And I had my own episode with the famous Ted Patrick here in Toronto. So all glories to Srila Prabhupada and the Sankirtan mission. We'll carry on with our program with the chanting of Jaya Radha Madhava, and then a wonderful class with His Grace Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu on Caitanya-caritāmṛta in the unedited books.
Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Vihari Jaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I do offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Narayanam namaskritya, Narayanam namaskritya, Naram cheva narottamam, Naram cheva narottamam, Devim saraswatim vyasam, Devim saraswatim vyasam, Tato jayam mudirayet, Tato jayam mudirayet. One should utter the means of conquest, Srimad Bhagavatam or Caitanya-caritāmṛta, after offering respectful obeisances, 1 to the personality of Godhead Narayana, 2 to the Narayana Rishi, who is the supermost human being, 3 to the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, then 4 to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. So welcome everyone to this reading and discussion on Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta. As we do every week, we're going to read a few verses from Adilila chapter 1 between text 18 and 22. This is to explain the meaning and the effect, the benefit of reading Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta. Text number 18. Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jai Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Translation. Glory to Sri Caitanya and Nityananda. Glory to Advaita Chandra. And glory to all the devotees of Sri Gaura, Lord Chaitanya. Text 19. Etina Thakur Gaudiya ki Karya Chenayatmasat, Etinera Charana Vandan Tire Morinat. These 3 deities of Vrindavana, Madan Mohan, Govinda, and Gopinatha, have absorbed the heart and soul of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, followers of Lord Chaitanya. I worship their lotus feet, for they are the lords of my heart. Text number 20. Granterarambi Karimangala-ācārya, Guru Vaishnav Bhagavan Tinirasmarana. Translation. In the beginning of this narration, simply by remembering the spiritual master, the devotees of the Lord, and the personality of Godhead, I have invoked their benedictions. Text 21. Tinera smaraneyai vigna vinashana, anayaseyai nijavanchita purana. Such remembrance destroys all difficulties and very easily enables one to fulfill his own desires. Text 22. Se mangala charanoi trivida prakar, Vastu Nirdesha Shirvad Namaskaram. The invocation involved 3 processes: defining the objective, offering benediction, and offering obeisances. Somebody the other day contacted me and asked me, why are you reading these verses before the reading? And then he says, is there any way to get rid of difficulties and obstacles? And I pointed out to this text 21, where it says, such remembrance of the spiritual master, the devotees of the Lord, and the personality of Godhead. What does that do? Such remembrance destroys all difficulties and very easily enables one to fulfill his own desires. So this reading of Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta is very beneficial. Today we'll be reading a few verses from Adi Lila, chapter 4, text number 30. All transliteration, translation, synonyms, and purports by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, Founder-Ācārya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement. Amiha na janitaha na jane gopigan, dunhar rupa gune dunhar nitya hariman. Amiha, I, na jani, shall not know. Taha, that, na jane, will not know. Gopigana, the gopis, Dunhara, of the two, Rupa Gune, the beauty and qualities, Dunhara, of the two, Nitya, always, Hare, carry away, Mana, the minds. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Neither the gopis nor I shall notice this, for our minds will always be entranced by another's beauty and qualities. Purport. In the spiritual sky, the Vaikuntha planets are predominated by Narayana. His devotees have the same features he does, and the exchange of devotion there is on the platform of reverence. But above all these Vaikuntha planets is Goloka, or Krishna Loka, where the original personality of Godhead Krishna fully manifests his pleasure potency in free loving affairs. Since the devotees in the material world know almost nothing about these affairs, the Lord desires to show these affairs to them. In Goloka Vrindavana, there is an exchange of love known as Parakya Rasa. It is something like the attraction of a married woman for a man other than her husband. In the material world, this sort of relationship is most abominable because it is a perverted reflection of the Parakya Rasa in the spiritual world, where it is the highest kind of loving affair. Such feelings between the devotee and the Lord are presented by the influence of Yogamāyā. Bhagavad Gita states that devotees of the highest grade are under the care of Devamāyā or Yogamāyā. Mahatmanas tumam parta devim prakritim ashritaha. Bhagavad Gita 9:13. Those who are actually great souls, Mahatmas, are fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, always engaged in the service of the Lord. They are under the care of Devi Prakriti or Yogamāyā. Yogamāyā creates a situation in which the devotee is prepared to transgress all regulative principles simply to love Krishna. A devotee naturally does not like to transgress the laws of reverence for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but by the influence of Yogamāyā, he is prepared to do anything to love the Supreme Lord better. Those under the spell of the material energy cannot at all appreciate the activities of Yogamāyā. For a conditioned soul can hardly understand the pure reciprocation between the Lord and his devotee. But by executing devotional service under the regulative principles, one can become very highly elevated and then begin to appreciate the dealings of pure love under the management of Yogamāyā. In the spiritual loving sentiment induced by the Yogamāyā potency, both Lord Sri Krishna and the damsels of Vraja forget themselves in spiritual rapture. By the influence of such forgetfulness, the attractive beauty, lost my track here. By the influence of such forgetfulness, the attractive beauty of the gopis plays a prominent part in the transcendental satisfaction of the Lord, who has nothing to do with mundane sexology. Because spiritual love of Godhead is above everything mundane, the gopis superficially seem to transgress the codes of mundane morality. This perpetually puzzles mundane moralists. Therefore, Yogamāyā acts to cover the Lord and his pastimes from the eyes of mundaners, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, where the Lord says that he reserves the right of not being exposed to everyone. The acts of Yogamāyā make it possible for the Lord and the gopis in loving ecstasy to sometimes meet and sometimes separate. These transcendental loving affairs of the Lord are unimaginable to empiricists involved in the impersonal feature of the absolute truth. Therefore, the Lord himself appears before the mundaners to bestow upon them the highest form of spiritual realization and also personally relish its essence. The Lord is so merciful that he himself descends to take the fallen souls back home to the kingdom of Godhead, where the erotic principles of Godhead are eternally relished in their real form, distinct from the perverted sexual love so much adored and indulged in by the fallen souls in their diseased condition. The reason the Lord displays the Rasa Lila is essentially to induce all the fallen souls to give up their diseased morality and religiosity and to attract them to the kingdom of God to enjoy the reality. A person who actually understands what the Rasa Lila is will certainly hate to indulge in mundane sex life. For the realized soul, hearing the Lord's Rasa Lila through the proper channel will result in complete abstinence from material sexual pleasure. Text 31. Dharma chadira gedunhi karayimilan kabumile kabunamile devirogatan. Dharma chadi, giving up religious customs. Arage, in love. Dunhe, both. Karaye, do. Milana, meeting. Kabu, sometimes. Mile, they meet. Kabu, sometimes. Namile, they do not meet. Devera, of destiny. Ghatana, the happening. Translation. Pure attachment will unite us even at the expense of moral and religious duties, dharma. Destiny will sometimes bring us together and sometimes separate us. Purport. The gopis came out to meet Krishna in the dead of the night when they heard the sound of Krishna's flute. Srila Rupa Goswami has accordingly composed a nice verse that describes the beautiful boy called Govinda standing by the bank of the Yamuna with his flute to his lips in the shining moonlight. Those who want to enjoy life in the materialistic way of society, friendship and love, should not go to the Yamuna to see the form of Govinda. The sound of Lord Krishna's flute is so sweet that it has made the gopis forget all about their relationships with their kinsmen and flee to Krishna in the dead of night. By leaving home in that way, the gopis have transgressed the Vedic regulations of household life. This indicates that when natural feelings of love for Krishna become fully manifest, a devotee can neglect conventional social rules and regulations. In the material world, we are situated in designated positions only. But pure devotional service begins when one is freed from all designations. When love for Krishna is awakened, then the designated positions are overcome. The spontaneous attraction of Sri Krishna for his dearest part and parcels generates an enthusiasm that obliges Krishna, Sri Krishna, and the gopis to meet together. To celebrate this transcendental enthusiasm, there is a need of a sentiment of separation between the lover and beloved. In the condition of material tribulation, no one wants the pangs of separation. But in the transcendental form, the very same separation, being absolute in its nature, strengthens the ties of love and enhances the desire of the lover and beloved to meet. The period of separation, evaluated transcendentally, is more relishable than the actual meeting, which lacks the feeling of increasing anticipation because the lover and beloved are both present. Take text 32. Isabarasa niryasa kariba asfada, hidvare kariba sava bhaktera prasada, these, sabha, all, rasa niryasa, essence of mellows, kariba, I shall do, asvada, tasting, hidvare, by this, kariba, I shall do, sabha, all, bhaktere, to the devotees, prasada, favor. Translation: I shall taste the essence of all these rasas, and in this way I shall favor all the devotees. Text 33. Vrajere nirmala raga shuni bhaktogan, raga marge bhajayena chadi dharma karma, Vrajera of Vraja, Nirmala, spotless, Raga, love, Shuni, hearing, Bhaktagan, the devotees, Raga Marge, on the path of spontaneous love, Bhaje, they worship, Yena, so that, Chadi, given up, Dharma, religiosity, Karma, fruitive activity. Translation: then, by hearing about the pure love of the residents of Braja, devotees will worship me on the path of spontaneous love, abandoning all rituals of religiosity and fruitive activity. Purport: many realized souls, such as Raghunath Das Goswami and King Kulashekara, have recommended with great emphasis that one develop this spontaneous love of Godhead, even at the risk of transgressing all the traditional codes of morality and religiosity. Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavana, has written in his prayers called the Manas Shiksha that one should simply worship Radha and Krishna with all attention. Na dharmam srintidigata niruktam kilakuru. One should not be very much interested in performing Vedic rituals or simply following rules and regulations. King Kulashekara has written similarly in his book Mukunda Malastotra, Nashta dharme navasunichaye neva kamo paboge, Yad bhavyam tad bhavatu bhagavan purva karmanurupam, etat prartyam mababahumatam janma janmantarepi, tat tvat padam bhujaroha yugagata nischala bhaktirastu. I have no attraction for performing religious rituals, nor holding any earthly kingdom. I do not care for sense enjoyments. Let them appear and disappear in accordance with my previous deeds. My only desire is to be fixed in devotional service to the lotus feet of the Lord, even though I may continue to take birth here, life after life. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Bhagavad Bandhanam Khadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatehi Visheshataham Adadhana Strinam Danter Idam Yache Punaha Punaha Srimadrupa Padam Bhoja Dhulishyam Janma Janmani Namo Mahabadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradhayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, there is a section where it describes that Krishna, it says, Raso Vaisaha, he is the reservoir of all rasa. Now, it is well known among followers of Srila Prabhupada and of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Bhaktivinoda Thakur that in this particular line, they advocated and preach a certain method of performing devotional service, primarily focused on preaching the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, it is quite significant that even during the manifested presence of Srila Prabhupada, a few of his disciples, not many, but some, ventured outside of his instruction, outside of the boundary of his instructions, to go and attempt to take shelter of various other groups, various kinds of Babajis, caste Goswamis, other so-called experts in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. There is a lecture, not a lecture, but a conversation where Srila Prabhupada was discussing about his Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, who approached his father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and requested his permission to print a copy of the Govinda Lilamrita. Govinda Lilamrita was composed by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. It is a highly elevated literature which describes the pastimes, intimately the pastimes of Radha Krishna 24 hours a day in Goloka Vrindavan. And Bhaktivedanta Thakur replied, says, yes, you can print. You can print one copy only. Now, why did he say that? Obviously, because he did not intend to have such confidential literature to be distributed for the common public. Recently, I was reading a conversation where Srila Prabhupada was discussing about the Rasa Leela, that this Rasa Leela is meant for liberated souls, for Paramahamsas. It is not meant for the general public. Prabhupada said in one place, don't touch it. If you're not a liberated soul, if you're not a Paramahamsa, don't touch it. Now, why would he say that? Because he presented the Krishna book. He translated the pastimes of the Rasa Leela. But we see when we carefully read the Krishna book that Srila Prabhupada gives many warnings and many instructions of how to understand these pastimes of the Rasa Leela. Because otherwise one is guaranteed to misunderstand and commit offenses. One may start to think that this is mundane, as Prabhupada calls it, sexology, or the sexual affairs between young boy and young girl. But this is not. This has been described by all of our great acharyas, like Bhaktivedanta Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada, and some of the other great previous acharyas like Baladevi Vibhushana, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Jiva Goswami. When they describe or discuss these activities of Krishna with the gopis, the intimate pastimes of Krishna with his personal associates, they always give very clear warnings that do not think that these activities are mundane. Srila Prabhupada used to often quote a verse from Sanatan Goswami, Avaishnava Mukod Girnam Putam Harikatamritam Shravanam Neva Kartavyam Sarpochistam Yatapaya, that we should not hear the message of Harikatha. The messages of Harikatha from the Bhagavatam and Vedic literatures is considered Hari, Amritam. Amritam means nectar, very sweet. Shravanam neva kartavyam, he gives a warning, never hear from the Avaishnava. Why? He says, sarpauchistam yatapayaha, just like milk, which has been touched by the lips of a serpent, becomes poisonous. In India, it is very common for many people to engage in this Bhagavat Saptaha. They will read the entire 18,000 or 14,000 verses of the Bhagavatam consecutively for 7 days. And they will also connect some donations like that. But Prabhupada many times admonished that this is not the standard. One should not engage in the business of selling the message of Bhagavatam for money. Prabhupada criticized this tendency. It is very popular, even in Vrindavan, many other places. They will read the Bhagavatam 7 consecutive days, call it Bhagavat Saptaha. Prabhupada did not encourage that. Prabhupada would often quote, when he would discuss this issue, he says, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. One should render constant service, eternal service to the Bhagavatam and to the Bhagavata devotees. So there's a lot of warnings in Vedic literatures. In 1974, when Srila Prabhupada's Krishna Balaram temple was being built in the spring, we were living in huts along the wall. The temple had not yet been built. They were constructing Srila Prabhupada's house. The guest house had not been built. There was a boundary wall between the property of the temple and the next door neighbor. So they put some tents where devotees would live there. So one morning, we heard some commotion. Prabhupada's house may have been like 200 feet away. And Prabhupada came out of his room and he picked up a brick in his hand. He had a brick in his hand. And there was one French devotee, one European devotee. He had gone to Radhakund. He had all the big Radhakund tilak, the Radhakund neck beads. And he was there. He was trembling. And Prabhupada had the brick. He was going to hit him with the brick. So he started to scream at him. So all of us gathered there. Guru Kripa Swami, so many devotees, we gathered there. And we're like, we were stunned. It was like, what's going on here? What's happening? And Prabhupada raised his voice and told his devotee, who told you to go to Radhakund? Did I give you permission to go to Radhakund? Who are you? Who do you think you are to go to Radhakund without permission? And Prabhupada started to ask him, what is this nonsense? You go by yourself, you've become independent, whimsical. Prabhupada says, stop this nonsense. Stay in the association of devotee and hear Srimad Bhagavatam. We could understand by Prabhupada's behavior that he was not very pleased with one of his disciples whimsically going there, whatever he was thinking, getting some special, unique teachings or some special, unique understanding. Srila Prabhupada would often tell the story that when his Guru Maharaj went to Radhakund and was giving a series of lectures, in the beginning of these lectures, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was speaking on the Upanishads. And some of the Babajis that came there, after they saw that Bhaktisiddhanta was speaking from the Upanishad, they stopped coming. And Prabhupada mentioned that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur made a statement that these people, they don't live in Radhakund, they live in Narakakund, hellish situation, because they're discriminating between the message of the Upanishads and the message of the Bhagavatam. So one has to be very careful who we choose to hear from. I regularly hear and get communications from different devotees. What about this group? What about that group? What about that devotee who's teaching this? What about that devotee who's teaching that? And my attitude always is, Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanamamalam. Take shelter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Recently, I had a friend in Florida, in Alachua, Florida, who experienced a pretty serious physical ailment, physical sickness. So he called me up before he was going to go to some hospital or some medical facility, and he asked me, what should I do? And I told him, I said, there is one great Acharya in our Sampradaya named Srinath Chakravarti. Some people say he was a disciple of Advaita Acharya. Some other people say he was a disciple of Gadadhar Pandit. But in any event, he was a highly elevated devotee who wrote the first commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, called Caitanya Manjusha. And in the beginning of that commentary, he summarizes the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. It's a very nice Sanskrit verse that Prabhupada used to often quote. And part of that, he quotes Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanamamalam, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to often say that the Srimad Bhagavatam is the topmost evidence. It is the topmost literature. It is a natural commentary on Vedanta Sutra. If we carefully read this beautiful Caitanya-caritāmṛta, we see that Krishnadas Kaviraj has quoted from the Garuda Purana, also the Goswamis have quoted that verse, that this Srimad Bhagavatam is the natural commentary on Vedanta Sutra. Itihasa Purananam. It is the natural commentary on the very complex Vedanta Sutra. Because in this age, who can understand Vedanta? People do not have the appetite or the intelligence to study Sanskrit for 12 years, or even study Sanskrit at all. And people have a short duration of life. They're troubled with so many problems. So how are they to understand spiritual knowledge that Srimad Bhagavatam is given? Artoyam Brahmasutranam, that this natural commentary on Vedanta Sutra is the exalted Srimad Bhagavatam. It was recommended by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In 1971, when we first went to Vrindavan, Guru Kripa Swami and myself went near the Ranganath temple. There's a Ramanuja temple in Vrindavan, a Ranganath temple. And we were walking along some of the shops, and one Indian gentleman said, come in, I want to show you something. It was a photo shop. He says, you have different pictures. He had all these rare pictures of Narottam Das Thakur, Lord Chaitanya. He had a photograph of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu listening to the Srimad Bhagavatam from Advaita-Acārya, Gadadhar Pandit, Haridas Thakur is there. All the intimate associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are there, listening to the Srimad Bhagavatam being spoken, being delivered by Gadadhar Pandit. It was a painting that was made. That painting was done during the manifested presence of Lord Chaitanya, very special. So he told us that if we gave him X amount of rupees, he could make a copy. So we told him, okay. Very, very nice painting. I believe I still have that little photo somewhere, but it was quite significant. The message that was being conveyed by that painting about the importance of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Every devotee knows that Srila Prabhupada recommended that devotees should hear Bhagavatam class in the morning, Bhagavad Gita class in the morning, Bhagavad Gita class in the evening. Why? Because this is the way to become purified. We chant Hare Krishna and we hear the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's important to note that the commentaries that Srila Prabhupada had made on the Srimad Bhagavatam are all based on the commentaries of his Guru Maharaj, Bhaktivedanta Thakur, Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur, Baladevi Vibhushana, Jiva Goswami, Sanatana Goswami. He did not manufacture his own interpretation. So when devotees chose to go beyond Srila Prabhupada to various advisors in various mats, various Babajis, various other sources, this is very dangerous. We have seen in 1976, Srila Prabhupada chastised one devotee who had been polluted by the association of such persons. This person wanted to get Prabhupada's blessing so he could find a real guru. And Prabhupada laughed as if I'm not a real guru. Why do you want my blessings? And Prabhupada chastised that devotee. He says he sent a telegram to all the temples in ISKCON, in his society, that this devotee has become a black snake. Why? Because he became contaminated with this bogus idea that the disciplic succession that had been given by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and our Srila Prabhupada was not authorized because he did not list all the warm bodies of all the Diksha Guru in the succession. Very similar to the philosophy of the GBC with their living guru mentality. Very dangerous idea. This devotee openly criticized the disciplic section that has been given by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and our Srila Prabhupada. We saw when I was in Badger, California in 1993, after coming from Canada, some devotees started to preach that it's very common for acharyas in the sampradaya to fall down. And we told them this is nonsense, complete nonsense. If you study the writings of Krishna Das Kaviraj in Caitanya-caritāmṛta, Baladev Vidyabhūshana in his Prameya Ratnavali, there is no such instance as a Vaishnava-Acārya becoming a debauchee, a sexual pervert, or an embezzler, or a criminal. It never happened. It will never happen. And we quoted him that conversation where there's a morning walk where somebody told Srila Prabhupada, is it true that the Acharya doesn't have to be a pure devotee? Prabhupada said, who is that rascal? Who is that rascal who's preaching this nonsense? Prabhupada said, these incidences in the Shastra are given to give us a warning how we have to be very careful. Not that we start finding fault with the Acharya, but some less intelligent persons influenced by Maya trying to spread these false doctrines. We have to be very careful who we choose to hear from. One should be safe and hear from Srila Prabhupada and his faithful disciples from his original first edition books, so that one will not be misled by false propaganda. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your wonderful explanation, filled with examples of Prabhupada's personal Vapu association that you had, which gives us some close understanding of this great philosophy, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, which some people have minimized. And they explain that Prabhupada came, but he only presented a partial explanation of the absolute truth. That, and some of his colleagues minimized his work, as we all know. And it's like the frog in the well, speculating. Because when you have the pure devotee spiritual master, the proper representative of Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami, who demonstrated his potency by his work and his success, which is apparent now how the Krishna Consciousness movement, even in its own distorted way, has expanded significantly. You realize that Prabhupada is the empowered representative of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami, and he delivered the highest information that is available for the conditioned souls in this material world. And it came through his presentation of Caitanya-caritāmṛta, which was, as we all know, those who were with us, all of us in the movement back in the 70s, was a big marathon that Prabhupada conducted in Los Angeles primarily. And he was working at a mad pace to present the literature. And that's why he insisted that you must read my books, because only in that way you can get a true insight into his greatness. Because the books are the revelation of his transcendental mentality, his transparent via media potency, that Krishna was speaking through him. And today I was moving forward in my personal study, and I know all of you are studying the books on your own as part of your sadhana. And I was reading forward in Life's Ultimate Goal, Madhya Lila, chapter 23, text 79 and to 81. And we'll read them. And I realized as I was reading it that this is above my pay grade, let's say, for a mundane example. But nonetheless, reading it with the appreciation of this great gift that Prabhupada has given us. And we'll go directly to the verses. And these verses, Prabhupada's delivering these verses from Caitanya-caritāmṛta on the qualities of Krishna. These qualities are one. The Lord is always situated in his original position. 2, he's omniscient. He's always fresh. 3, and youthful. 4, he is the concentrated form of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. 5, he is the possessor of all mystic perfection. There are another 5 qualities which exist in the Vaikuntha planets in Narayan, the Lord of Lakshmi. These qualities are also present in Krishna, but they are not present in demigods like Lord Shiva or other living entities. These are 1, inconceivable supreme power. 2, generating innumerable universes from the body. 3, being the original source of all incarnations. 4, bestowing salvation upon enemies killed. And 5, the ability to attract exalted persons who are satisfied in themselves. Although these qualities are present in Narayan, the predominating deity of the Vaikuntha planets, they are even more wonderfully present in Krishna. 82-83. Apart from these 60 transcendental qualities, Krishna has additional 4 transcendental qualities which are not manifest even in the personality of Narayan. They are: Krishna is like an ocean filled with waves of pastimes that evoke wonder within everyone in the 3 worlds. In his activities of conjugal love, he is always surrounded by his dear devotees who possess unequaled love for him. He attracts the minds of all 3 worlds by the melodious vibration of his flute. His personal beauty and opulence are beyond compare. No one is equal to him. There is no one greater than him. Thus, the personality of Godhead astonishes all living entities, both moving and non-moving. Within the 3 worlds, he is so beautiful that he is called Krishna. Purport. Mayavadi philosophers who have a poor fund of knowledge simply dismiss this subject by explaining that Krishna means black, not understanding the qualities of Krishna. These atheistic rascals do not accept him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although the Lord is described and accepted by great personalities, acharyas, and sages, the Mayavadis still do not appreciate him. Unfortunately, at the present moment, human society is so degraded that people cannot even provide themselves with life's daily necessities. Yet they are captivated by Mayavadi philosophers and being misled. According to the Bhagavad Gita, simply by understanding Krishna, one can get free from the cycle of birth and death. Chaktva deham punarjanma naiti mam eti sorjuna. Unfortunately, this great science of Krishna consciousness has been impeded by Mayavadi philosophers who are opposed to this personality of Krishna. Those who are preaching this Krishna consciousness movement must try to understand Krishna from the statements given in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the Nectar of Devotion. So, understanding Krishna, understanding, and if you read along in these, in this particular chapter, Krishna is, or Prabhupada's describing the different loving relationships that the gopis have with Krishna. These are insights into spiritual life that are a gift from guru to disciple. And these are the gifts that Srila Prabhupada is giving us in his books. And if we read them carefully and we follow strictly his instructions to us, then we will be successful beyond our wildest dreams. Prabhupada is the pure devotee, bona fide spiritual master that all of us must follow. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, please, if you could further.
Within the last week, there was a big meeting of various devotees in Germany, and various devotees were asked to make presentations and lectures. And I noticed in one of these presentations, one person made a comment that we have to discuss the issue of guru and diksha or initiation according to the Gaudiya Siddhanta. Now, I was just listening. I didn't want to interrupt the lecture or cause trouble. I just wanted to make a comment about that. It's very common for many individuals who have gone beyond Srila Prabhupada's instruction and teachings and presentation to make these statements that we have to understand Gaudiya Siddhanta. Well, according to whom? Gaudiya Siddhanta has got to be understood from the bona fide Acharya, from the current authorized Acharya, and that is Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada has demonstrated that during his manifested presence, by his writing, by his devotional accomplishments, by his traveling all over the world and his success, that he is the bona fide representative of Lord Chaitanya, and he still is. It's not that he is dead and gone. So those people who claim that we have to understand Gaudiya Siddhanta, my rebuttal is according to whom? For some deviants? From some people who disobeyed their own guru? From various neo-mats? From various Babajis, caste Goswamis, Sahajiyas, or independent persons? What will that do? What did these people do to spread the message of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? There was one conversation where Srila Prabhupada was discussing about descendants of Nityananda Vamsha. And Prabhupada said, that is very nice, very fortunate you're born in that family. But what are you doing to spread the message of Nityananda Prabhu? What are you doing to spread the message of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? And this is the question. What contribution did these various parties have made to the spreading of Lord Chaitanya's message all over the world? And the answer, unfortunately, is not very much. He did it. He sacrificed. He went to the West. He endured all kinds of difficulties and preached. And now we see all kinds of upstarts who tried to minimize his achievement, minimize his accomplishment, minimize his position to prop themselves up. No, we should never hear from such persons. Very dangerous. And this is confirmed. This is the example that's been given that I quoted earlier. Shravanam neva kartavyam. One should never hear from such persons. Sarpochistam yatapaya. Just like milk that has been touched by the lips of a serpent. Those people who have deviated from the instruction of their guru, who have not done anything to spread the mission of Lord Chaitanya, they're not authorities to present the message of Lord Chaitanya. Hare Krishna.
Very interesting. We have a few of our God brothers online here, I see, and we're going to call upon them, Jonas Priya and Balaram in Australia. Maybe Jonas Priya could mention his own realizations about Prabhupada's divinity in this Sankirtan mission that he inaugurated back in 1965. Jonas Priya in Hawaii.
Hare Krishna, Jai Prabhupada.
Jai.
Yes, I also attended this European meeting, and I know what Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu is talking about. That was this Nityananda character from Vrindavan. And I swear, I was so angry just being exposed to that it was horrifying to me to hear somebody, and he went on and on and on, and you could tell how deviated they have no idea. They go and hang out with some of these Babajis in Radhakund, and I told them, I said, look, I've been there. I was on my way with Turya. and he was into the same nonsense. And at the time, I wasn't aware of anything, and I thought I was a gopi. I really believed it. And this is the greatest danger for aspiring devotee. Why? Because you think, you actually believe that you are a gopi, and you're beyond rules and regulations and so many things. So this is the greatest disservice for anybody to propagate this nonsense. And the people are so foolish or innocent or stupid or all of it that I fall for it, but I woke up and I go, no, this is not it. So I was so upset. I wanted to shut him up, but I was polite and I didn't say anything, just like, biting my tongue. But we're so fortunate beyond measure that we became in contact with a pure devotee, a real devotee of Krishna. And Prabhupada told it like it is. He didn't add anything. Prabhupada simply repeated what he heard from his guru, parampara. And this is where the potency, each time the guru speaks to the disciple speaks like that. It's unbroken disciplic succession. And Prabhupada, everything that comes out of Prabhupada's mouth, at least 90% is word by word Bhaktisiddhanta. So to me, that's an example. To me, that's an example that's what I need to do. I need to repeat simply what I hear from Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, you might be nonsense, you might be a rascal, but I'm not. So you simply repeat what I say, then your message will be effective. Hare Krishna.
Yes, this is very true. I mean, this is the essence of making advancement in spiritual life, is to follow in the footsteps of the pure devotee. How he acted, that's how we act. How he spoke, that's how we speak. For example, everyone, the Prabhupada, I put this post up on the Prabhupada Disciples Association about a rascal. That Prabhupada calls people that preach but do not quote from Shastra to support it. They're rascals. They're just concocting. And this is the situation with a lot of people. They give their opinion or perspective based on their mental speculation. And this is become what's called a chaotic environment. It's gone. I speak to Yaśodā on a regular basis. I said, really, if you're looking at this situation, whether it's the material world or this so-called spiritual mission that they have nowadays, the people are insane. They're just totally crazy. And this is the type of unfortunate contamination that's entered into this world of Kali Yuga. Balaramji, you're down there in Australia. I know it's a nice weather, you lucky guy. Give us your comments on today's discussion.
Jai Srila Prabhupada, all glories and obeisances to all of the assembled Vaishnavas. Thank you very much for the wonderful discussion. Yes, I'd like to say I was also invited to speak at this conference. Oh. And I discussed a little bit with Venkat Bhatta Prabhu, and I actually had some feelings about it, if you know what I mean. And yes. I politely declined. I did have a very busy week here, and some of the allotted times weren't really available to me. But and I saw that your good self and Yaśodā-nandana were speaking, so I look forward to still having a look at those classes. But I was also going to say, just following on from what Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu was explaining about people jumping around. Today with the internet, there's a big problem because devotees who have not developed faith in Srila Prabhupada, or whether they're older devotees who have had problems or looking for something else. But today with the internet, there's so many thousands of groups And my advice to new devotees is to remain fixed at the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada, because you can do a search. I mean, we know what it's like. You can do a search on Google and so many different things will come up. You know, sometimes you're looking and, oh, this is something, someone's up in the Himalayas and they're speaking about this, and it's very attractive. You know, some of these little clips, they look very attractive. So someone starts, and then also many of them are still related to the Gaudiya situation that we're in. So very, very easy for especially new devotees to get sidetracked, so to speak. There was a devotee in I've still got a reply, but Venkat Prabhu sent me a message, said there was a devotee in Australia. I think if he might be on the call today, I'm not too sure, but he wanted to ask me a question about how to organize your life. My simple thing is read Srila Prabhupada's books every day, listen to Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita class every day, and chant your rounds and follow the principles. We don't need to go anywhere else. And if you do that, if you read Srila Prabhupada's books and listen to Srila Prabhupada, so important with the technology we have today, listen to Srila Prabhupada, that then he's personally present there with us. He's with us in his books, but the extra emphasis when we hear Srila Prabhupada, just like when we're hearing Srila Prabhupada chanting, when we're hearing Srila Prabhupada chanting. My wife is a school teacher, Jamuna Jayadevi. She drives 40 minutes in the morning and 40 minutes home from school teaching every day, listening to Srila Prabhupada's class and kirtan, you know, an hour and a half, 2 hours a day on the two drives. This is how you have to arrange your life. And honestly, if you make Prabhupada as the center, there's no way that you'll stray. And if you do, well, you are a rascal. That's all we can say. But anyway, there's so many more things. This is a very elevated section of the Caitanya-caritāmṛta, just explaining the amazing understanding of Krishna and Lord Chaitanya's wonderful pastimes, and we can only understand those through the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, because otherwise we will misunderstand. Just like Janas Priya said, perfect example there. We've all been to Vrindavan and we've seen, but stay fixed in the shelter of Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Excellent. Yes. You know, I thought you made a good point there, Balaramji, in Australia, about the cottage industry of the internet. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu coined that phrase for me. And it really captivated me, because if you think about a cottage industry, someone making a house. So they're not really an industry, they're an individual that's part of an industry like that. And so they may not have money, or they don't have a factory, but they come out like they're some kind of billionaire in the spiritual community. They come out like they're some kind of big authority. But the fact of the matter is, they have their opinion, just like everyone has a body odor. They have an opinion about this philosophy and that philosophy, and they express it according to their limited realization. And it could be based on profit, adoration, and distinction that they're trying to get. And as a result, this has become a marketplace of confusion, everyone. You know, I could say this. I talked to Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu Balaram today. I said to him, these classes that we're doing are being attended by the sages of Naimisharanya, the demigods, because we're focusing on one thing, Srila Prabhupada as our guru. And like you said, we're following these different rules and regulations, There is no, motive here except to help others get a proper taste for Krishna consciousness. Our friend Joe Felice here in Hamilton, today I was speaking to him. He goes, these classes for me make me feel like I'm a part of the ISKCON movement back in the 70s. That's what he said. He goes, the ecstasy that I experience with my wife and him, they own a real estate company. And they both listen to the classes. And he told me this is the best time of the week for him. And out of 168 hours, everyone, in the week, these classes take up 4.5 hours of your time. And they're the most valuable time during the week that you could spend along with the other aspects of your life in your devotional practices to become advanced in Krishna's service through the association of like-minded devotees. I see that Vinkat Bhatta, I hope you're still there behind the screen there. I see that something came up. Thank you, Prabhu. Excellent. We have Vinyak Sharma to everyone. I thought maybe you could read these 3 interesting comments from him, from you, and from our friend from Harvard University, Garuda Prabhu. Maybe you could read the 3 comments.
Vinayak Sharma Prabhu says, all contribution these parties have done is to poach devotees from ISKCON's camp to their camp. Surprisingly, some of them even call it preaching. I think he's referring to Gaudiya Math like that.
Okay, maybe all contributions these parties have done is to poach. Okay, and you wrote.
Well, yeah, I just had
read that. Read
I
that.
had into some of the given by Nityananda Prabhu of and like he was preaching that this Vaidhi Bhakti and Raganuga Bhakti are like almost 2 separate paths. So if you don't consciously choose to follow Raganuga Bhakti, you'll forever be stuck in Vaidhi Bhakti, something like that. So I don't know, it just didn't sound right to me. So, but I just left the class at that point.
Okay, fair enough. And read Garuda's comment, please.
Your sense is correct from my knowledge. One does not choose Vaidhi Bhakti or Raganuga Bhakti. One evolves naturally from one to the other as one advances in Krishna Bhakti.
Exactly. And, yes, and then we'll just read the bottom comment here. It was referred to all these Neo-Gaudiya or other Gaudiya organizations. So thank you, Vinyak Sharma, for your comments. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, of course, and then we'll move to the conclusion.
Going along with the commentary of Garuda Prabhu, it's a very important point raising. Study Srila Prabhupada's teachings about Prabhupada's statements about Raguna Bhakti, Ragamarg, Swarup Siddhi, Siddha Deha. Every time these questions were posed and asked of Srila Prabhupada, his point was always that you practice Krishna consciousness, understand that you're not the body, become liberated, and then it will be revealed to you. There's a natural systematic process. What has happened with this Babaji type preaching is that people are trying to shortcut the process. Prabhupada always emphasized, follow the basic process, become purified, become gradually more advanced, the anartha nivriti will clear up, then ruchi will come, a taste for hearing about Krishna, and gradually one will become purified, and one's natural relationship with Krishna will be revealed. What these people are advocating is some kind of a very unnatural process. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur did not support this artificial attempt to jump to the Ragamarg, thinking that one is an associate of Krishna like that. This is not the system that they preached. As a matter of fact, in one of the poetry of Bhaktivedanta Thakur, he explains that this artificial attempt to jump to the highest stages of bhakti artificially is like a person who wants to jump and grab the mango from the mango tree, even though the mango is not ripe. But he's thinking, I've got a mango, it's got to be sweet. Well, then he finds out the mango is still bitter because it's not ripe yet. So when one's practices of sadhana bhakti become ripe, and gradually one advances on the path of bhakti, these devotional relationships with Krishna will be revealed. This is what the Nectar of Devotion explained this very nicely. But what happened is a lot of people, especially in Vrindavan and Bengal, who preach that you can have this shortcut, but that we're going to reveal your personal swarup with Krishna artificially, and then you can have this special revelation to you. But that does not work. This is not the way that Srila Prabhupada preached or presented Krishna consciousness.
Yes. Thank you. Wonderful explanation. And I do have some sections for the next class that I'm going to read from Prabhupada that are really relevant to the discussion today. We want to thank everyone for attending the discussion and reading tonight of Caitanya-caritāmṛta. We've come to the end of the semi-end of the program, but before we conclude, I wanted to bring up our Vyas Puja offering book on the screen. If you could, Vinkat Bhatta, and show them the beautiful cover. That Vinkat Bhatta is a very talented graphic artist, I must say, and congratulations to you, and a celebration for all of us that we've got qualified people like Rathi-ācārya for book distribution, and Janas Priya, and all the different devotees assembled. Garuda as joining us. It's a wonderful opportunity for us to all become better associates. Show the Vyas Puja cover, please, Venkat Bhatta Prabhu. The advertisement you have, can you bring it up on the screen? Yeah, excellent. So this is the book that we're producing, and it's really become a wonderful project for us to establish our presence in the Vaishnava community as a group of Vaishnavas that have the same understanding of the philosophy that Prabhupada taught us back in the 60s and 70s. No change. And the same procedure that he wanted us to follow despite all the controversy. So we're requesting you, please everyone, prepare an offering, send it over to to Vinkat Bhatta Prabhu, or you can send it to Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. We can forward it to Vinkat Bhatta or to myself if you want. So in this way, we can show the world that there is a group of us that are unified under this banner of Srila Prabhupada as Jagat Guru, the pure devotee. Now, the other thing is that we're going to have introductory articles. So if you have an article that you're interested in having published at the beginning of the book to support our mission, then please send it over to our Vinkat Bhatta Prabhu for review, and we'll be interested in taking a look at it for the front of the magazine. So this is a very important project. Please, everyone, how many offerings do we have so far, Vinkat Bhatta Prabhu?
We have around 30 or 35.
That's not, please, and in Hamilton, Joe Leese and his wife Karen both wrote the Vyas Puja book. So please encourage them to write something so we show Rathi-ācārya there's strength in numbers. We have to show strength as we enter into the war of the deviants versus the devotees. You can figure out who the deviants are, and we know who are the devotees. So thank you very much. We're going to also have a festival for Vyas Puja in Sacramento, and Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu will be the guest speaker, and we'll be filming that, and as well the Janmashtami festival. So these are more parts of the programs we're unfolding. And if you are going to have people over for these days, for one of them, you can watch the broadcast with them on YouTube TV, which we'll be streaming. And we can all celebrate these occasions together as God brothers and God sisters, advocating the mercy of Srila Prabhupada as the mercy for all of us to make advancement in spiritual life. So thank you, everyone. We'll see you on Saturday morning and on Sunday morning for Gita and Bhagavatam classes. We'll have the kirtan, chant out with us, and then we'll pay our obeisances, and you can carry on with the rest of your activities.
Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivāsadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivāsadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivāsadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha